Good morning and welcome back to my scrap room. My name is Jennifer Perry, and I have a set of photographs that I completely forgot that I had from 2018. So I decided I wanted to do something fun with them. So I'm going to combine my Close to My Heart products, my Scrapbook Generation sketches, and my May Hip Kit 2021 kit all together to make a layout. And I'm going to kind of go off the rails a little bit with the sketch. I'm using it as basic bones to kind of give me an idea of what I may do. So some of the cuts, I'm going to go ahead and cut them out, and then later on I'm going to decide I don't need them. And that's fine. And I'm also going to change up the sketch a little bit from what Allison envisioned versus what my brain is telling me I need to do with this particular layout. So it's going to change up just a little bit. And at the end, I did a stupid, and it's the first time I have ever done this in the 4 years that I've had my channel. I forgot to turn the camera back on. So for part of this, there's no footage. You'll see that whenever we get over there. And I was so upset with myself when I did that. But I was tired, and it was the third video that I was filming for the day, and I've never filmed back to back like that before. And it just kind of told me I don't need to do it again. I need to just film one video a day, not be so tired, and not make a stupid mistake. So I'm basically just going through at this moment, and I'm following the sketch, and I'm making all of the cuts on the sketch. Now these two little bitty ones, the very thin little cuts that I just did, I'll need those. But that one that I just did, that one cut, I'm going to end up not using that one. This one right here. I like it on the design, on the sketch, but the way that I'm going to end up aligning these photos, you're not going to be able to see it, which was kind of a bummer because I really wanted to use them. But I decided in the end, I would rather put these pieces back in the bag and possibly use them in the future than put them on the layout and not be able to see them. To me, it ended up being a waste of paper for my particular layout. But I loved it on the sketch, and I was really trying to figure out how to make it stay. And I'm going to notice in just a minute that I only cut one of those strips, so I need to go back and cut another one. I forgot that I was doing a 2-page layout and forgot to make the cut, and I'm going to remember it in just a minute when I'm putting everything away. So while I'm doing this, I decided to put on an Audible book, so I'm listening to Harry Potter and just kind of enjoying my day. And I was also doing laundry at the same time, so I really put way too much on my plate when I was filming, but I was having fun. Now it appears that I'm not using very much adhesive at all, and I'm not. If I was only using adhesive, I would need much more to make sure these papers stay on long term. But at this point, I know I'm going to be doing some stitching, and the stitching is going to hold all of my work together, so I can use very little adhesive and still get the same hold as I would with regular adhesive. Also lessens the chance of the needle getting mucked up in the adhesive as I'm stitching, so the least amount of adhesive being used is best when you know you're going to stitch on your layout first. And this is when I realized, you dork, you missed a cut. So I'm just going to go back real fast, grab that cut. Again, this piece is not going to end up being used, but at this time I didn't know that. I thought I was still going to be able to use it, and I was still quite excited that I was going to be able to use it, and it's only later when I'm putting it together that I decide, nope, I'll have to put these back in the bag and just enjoy them later. I'm going to take a moment and just adhere everything down. I'm going to be very mindful of where I'm putting the adhesive because I know I'm going to stitch. So I'm going to try and get away with the least amount as possible. Now I do have a way of taking the adhesive off of my cutting tools if I have a brain fart and forget and just adhere everything down with all the adhesive, especially with score tape. That score tape really gets stuck on everything. So it's really best to try and keep your cutting tools and your needles and stuff out of the adhesive. But you can buy adhesive remover pads on Amazon, and then I also recommend getting alcohol prep wipes to go over your tools again to wipe the residue off from the alcohol prep pads. Try saying that 3 times really quickly. Holy cow. But again, there's a way of cleaning your tools. If you do like I do sometimes and just go amok and get everything all sticky and gooey, you can clean your tools. And you see I am also using my Teflon scissors to kind of help with the adhesive. But my needles, if I accidentally use too much adhesive and it ends up in the adhesive field, you'll know it in a hurry because your needle will start to feel sticky and your thread will have a hard time going through the holes. So while it doesn't happen all the time, I try to keep the adhesive away from where I'm going to stitch. That was a great big old long story for just saying try and keep your adhesive out of where you're going to stitch. And now I get to dig into my DMC thread stash. I have DMC thread everywhere. Now, my DMC thread matches all of my Close to My Heart cardstock. When they get a new color range in, I take samples of my cardstock to a local craft store. I pop a squat on the floor and I match it up as best as possible. I have a list of all of the colors since 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, listed on the Facebook group in the files. So if you're interested in past colors or even interested in current colors, all of those are in the Facebook group under documents or under files or something like that. You can look that up and print it for yourself. And you're going to see a copy of that list right here on the lid. This one is the 2021-2022 colors because, of course, that's what we're working with this year. So I have all of my colors matched to the Close to My Heart cardstocks, but I find, as you can see here, the cardstocks match many, many different companies, which is why I like to buy the Close to My Heart inks and the cardstocks, because they match everything else and it's such good quality. Now this little tool here will put a hurt on you. It is I call it my needle tool, but it's actually a pattern tracing tool. That's what it is, a pattern tracing tool. I had to look that up for you. And I use this tool when I want to stitch, but I don't need straight lines. When I want to be a little more whimsical, because I can just roll it along my paper. Now it does not poke all the way through. It gives you a quote tracing line. So I do have to go back over with my pokey tool, my Tim Holtz pokey tool, and poke the actual holes. But this gives me a good pattern tracing line, which is exactly what it's called. But I do keep it in a separate case all by its little lonesome because it is a wheel of needles and it will hurt you. I have hurt myself with that thing. So now I'm just going back over the lines that I just drew with my pokey tool. And it's going to take a few minutes, but it's worth it. And I stopped really quickly from poking to put my Dylusions ink down because I wanted the ink to be under the photos, under the stitching, kind of placed before everything else. So I stopped doing my pokey tool and I'm using my Dylusions Black Marble ink to put down my splatters, and I'm going to let that dry. I have two heat guns. This is the Tim Holtz heated heat gun. This is what I use for just drying mixed media. And then I have the Wagner heat gun that I use just for embossing. I like this little gun here just for drying things. It hangs right on my desk. It's very quiet and it's very convenient. But for embossing, I want my Wagner. So once all this is dry, I'm going to get back to doing my little pokey. And then I took a break from doing my little stitching and poking because it's a lot of stitching to take my raspberry cardstock that I'm going to use for framing and making mats, and I'm going to distress it with my Close to My Heart distress tool. And I actually had to stop and find this. It wasn't where I thought it was going to be. It wasn't in my drawer of tools. It was somewhere else totally that it really didn't belong. So once I found it, I decided to distress all my little edges and get this done and kind of give my hands a break a minute because the stitching takes quite a few hours. The lighting changes, and I end up having to use supplemental lighting. And about this time, my daughter texted me that she's going live on Twitch. And since she now lives in a different state, I try to get on with her anytime she's live. And we chatter and we giggle and we talk to all of her other friends while she's on live. So I was talking to her. I was distressing my photos. I was putting everything down. And then I was stitching in between. So I was doing all of this while I was stitching to kind of give my hands a little bit of a break. I stitch a while, I do something else a while, I stitch a while, I do something else a while, and it all just kind of works out. Now, in the original sketch, Allison does not have her photographs matted, but I decided while I was stitching to go ahead and mat my photographs because I knew I was going to go off the rails. This little black piece of cardstock is actually a Halloween piece of cardstock that I've had from probably 3 or 4 years ago. But you cannot tell that it's Halloween once I put Betty's picture on top. I just wanted a little bit of black peeking out behind her because to me, she's the main photo of this entire layout. And I just wanted to make hers a little more special. But again, that's Halloween paper. That is not even from this collection whatsoever. It is from a very long time ago, close to my heart collection. But it works. All you can see is just some little white lines and some black, and it worked very well. You can't even tell that it's got bats and cats on it. So once I finished resting my hands and having my squirrel moment, I decided to go back to the stitching. And in this process, I am listening to my daughter. I'm conversing with my daughter back and forth. I'm having some dinner. I'm just kind of fiddle-farting my way through this stitching. It takes several hours because I enjoy hand stitching. I had a sewing machine at one time. The sewing machine argued with me every time I tried to use it. I ended up selling it, but boy, there were several times I almost just threw it out the window. So for me, even though it takes much, much longer, I prefer hand stitching. This is also just very relaxing for me. I put on a movie, I talk to my kid, I listen to a book, I have ideas running through my brain, so a lot of times I'll just stop what I'm doing and write down the ideas that are running through my brain. I'm just one of those people, it relaxes me. Some people do it on fabric and they do cross stitch. I stitch on paper. Stitching also adds dimension and texture to your paper and your layouts without a lot of money. One skein of DMC thread is normally about 60 cents. And I separate my skein, so each skein comes in 6 strands. I separate it down to 3 strands. And then I fold it over on my needle, so when I'm stitching, once it's folded over, it still stitches as 6 strands, but I can get twice the amount of product out of one skein of DMC thread. So for this took one skein, this entire layout, because it was a lot of stitching. So this embellishment cost me a whole 60 cents. Where else can you get an embellishment for 60 cents in the scrapbooking world? So you get a lot of bang for your buck. You get extra holding power to make sure your layout stays together. You get dimension, you get texture. You can be very matchy-matchy, or you can go way off the scales and do contrasting colors. Thread is unending. The amount of colors out there, the amount of what you can do with just a skein of thread is unending. And it's one of my favorite embellishments to use on scrapbooking layouts. Find a new tool or stitching template, I snap it up as fast as I can because I almost use it on every single layout. When I leave the house to go to retreats, this is one of the first things I pack is my thread box, my needles, my templates, my rulers, needle tool. It all comes with me. It has a place in the box and it just knows it comes with me. That is how much I love this effect, and that's why it's so worth it to me to spend the time, and sometimes it's a considerable amount of time depending on how wild I get on a layout. And now comes the big stupid where I realize I forgot to turn the camera back on. So I apologize, I didn't mean to do this, but now the layout is finished. As you can see, the stitching is finished, all the embellishments are on. It's all there. So I apologize, I didn't mean to have a brain fart and do a stupid. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being part of this weird little video. I really appreciate you, and I know you have so many channels that you can be choosing, and I am very, very thankful that you choose to spend just a few minutes of your day with me. Until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I hope I see you soon. Bye.